Let me tell you something that will offend the romantics. When two awakened souls meet, they do not fall in love. They do not merge. They do not complete each other or become one. That is the fantasy of the unawakened. The dream of people who are still looking for someone else to fix them, to fill them, to give them the wholeness they refuse to build within themselves. When two awakened souls meet, something far more radical happens. They remain whole. They remain separate. And in that separateness, in that refusal to dissolve into each other, they create a connection deeper than merger ever could. Because they're not trying to escape themselves through the other person. They're meeting as themselves, fully, fearlessly, without the need to possess, to control, to consume. And that, my friend, is the rarest form of love there is. But before we go any further, if this already speaks to something in you, if you've been searching for this kind of connection your entire life, then please subscribe to this channel. Hit that like button. And when we're done here, leave a comment telling me, have you ever met someone like this? Someone who saw you completely and didn't flinch? Because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read to know they're not alone. Now, let's begin. You have been searching for this your entire life, haven't you? Not just a relationship, not just companionship, but a meeting, a real one, where you don't have to pretend, where you don't have to perform the version of yourself that gets you through Thanksgiving dinner with relatives who don't really know you, or through Monday morning meetings where everyone's wearing their professional masks. You've been searching for a place where you can finally exhale and be yourself, completely, messily, truthfully, and be met with understanding instead of judgment. But every time you've tried, something goes wrong. Either you meet people who can't handle your depth, who find you too intense or too much. Maybe you're at a bar in Brooklyn or a coffee shop in Austin, and you try to have a real conversation, something beyond Netflix shows and weekend plans, and you watch their eyes glaze over. Or you meet people who want to merge with you, who want to make you their savior, their therapist, their emotional support animal. They text you at 2 in the morning with their crises. They expect you to fix them. They lean so hard on your strength that you feel yourself buckling under the weight. Or worst of all, you meet people who seem right on the surface. You match on Hinge or meet through mutual friends. The first few dates go well, but then when you try to go deeper, when you try to be real with them, when you take off the mask, even just a little bit, they retreat. They deflect. They change the subject back to something safe and shallow. And you're left wondering, am I broken? Am I asking for too much? Will I ever meet someone who can match me where I actually am? Let me tell you what's actually happening here. The world has sold you a lie about connection. It has told you that soulmates are found, that there's someone out there who will complete you, that when you meet the one, everything will finally click into place and you'll never feel alone again. You've seen it in every rom-com, every Taylor Swift song, every Instagram post of couples looking perfectly happy on vacation in Tulum. But this is the fantasy of the unawakened, the dream of people who haven't done their inner work and are still looking for someone else to do it for them. When two awakened souls meet, it's not about completion. It's about recognition. Here is the myth you've been fed. When you meet your person, you'll finally feel whole. Here is the truth I'm going to show you. When two awakened souls meet, they don't make each other whole. They witness each other's wholeness. They don't fill each other's gaps. They celebrate each other's completeness. They don't merge into one. They create a sacred space where two whole people can exist fully without diminishing themselves. This is not the love you see in movies. This is not the desperate, consuming, I can't live without you kind of connection. This is something rarer, something most people will never experience because it requires something they're not willing to do. Become whole first. Let me tell you about two people, not real, but true in the way all important stories are true. She had spent 5 years alone, not because she couldn't find anyone. Lord knows the dating apps were full of options. Bumble, Hinge, even the occasional brave soul who approached her at Trader Joe's. But after her last relationship, the one that ended when she realized she'd been performing her entire life, being who others needed her to be, shrinking to fit into spaces too small for her, she decided no more. She deleted the apps. She stopped going to bars hoping to meet someone. She did the work, real work. Therapy every Tuesday at 6. Meditation every morning before her coffee. shadow work that made her cry in her car in the Target parking lot. The whole unglamorous, painful process of actually facing herself. Learning which parts of her personality were really hers and which parts she'd adopted to survive her childhood in suburban Ohio. Learning to sit with her anger without numbing it with wine or Netflix. Learning to be alone on a Friday night without feeling like she was missing out on life. He had done the same. Different path, same destination. After his divorce, after realizing he'd spent 15 years of marriage being whoever his ex-wife needed him to be, he spent 3 years alone. No dating, no casual hookups, just him, his dog, and the long process of learning to sit with his own darkness without running. Learning to stop using work as a distraction. Learning that being alone on Saturday night didn't mean he was a failure. Learning to actually like himself, not the version he performed for colleagues or family, but the real him, the one who sometimes felt scared, sometimes felt lost, sometimes spent Sunday mornings crying for no reason he could name. When they met, it was unremarkable at first. A friend's barbecue in someone's backyard in Portland. Paper plates, too much potato salad, the usual small talk about jobs and traffic and whether the Blazers had any chance this season. But then, one of them said something true. Not impressive, not clever, just true. A real thought they usually kept hidden. Maybe it was something about feeling out of place at these kinds of gatherings. Or about how exhausting it is to make small talk when all you want to do is have real conversations. And the other recognized it. Not the words, the frequency, the particular tone of someone who has stopped pretending. They didn't exchange numbers that night. They didn't plan anything. But 3 days later, one of them reached out. Just a simple text. Hey, I really enjoyed talking to you the other night. Want to grab coffee? And when they met again, this time alone at some local coffee shop where the barista knew everyone's order, they discovered something extraordinary. They could be silent together. Comfortable, full silence. Not the awkward silence of a bad first date where you're scrambling for something to say, but the kind of silence that feels full, rich, like you're both just existing together and that's enough. And when they spoke, they didn't need to explain themselves. They didn't need to soften their intensity or dumb down their depth. They could speak in the language of the awakened, direct, vulnerable, real, and be understood completely. And here's the most important part. Neither of them needed the other. They were already whole, already complete. She had her life, her routines, her friendships, her art practice that she'd reclaimed during those 5 years alone. He had his life, his work that actually mattered to him now, his Thursday night poker game with guys he'd known since college, his morning runs where he did his best thinking. But they chose each other, not out of lack, not out of fear, not because being alone felt unbearable, but out of joy, out of the recognition that while they could walk alone, and had been walking alone quite contentedly, walking together was richer, deeper, more alive. So what actually happens in the space between two people who have both become whole? What kind of connection forms when neither person is trying to extract something from the other? When neither is performing, manipulating, or hiding? Let me show you 5 things that happen when two awakened souls meet. 5 dynamics that most people will never witness because they require a level of consciousness most relationships never reach. First, there is no game playing. None. No waiting 3 days to text back. No pretending to be less interested than you are. No strategic moves designed to make the other person chase you. When two awakened people are attracted to each other, they're direct about it. Not in a desperate way, not in a needy way, but in a clear, honest, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I want, what about you kind of way. Because they're not afraid of rejection anymore. They've already been rejected by the most important person, themselves, during all those years of shadow work. And they survived. So someone else saying no doesn't shatter them. It just means this person isn't a match. And that's okay. They're whole either way. Second, there is space. Lots of it. These are not the couples you see on Instagram, documenting every moment together. These are not people who lose themselves in each other. She still has her pottery class on Wednesday nights. He still has his boys' trip to Colorado every spring. They don't need to be together constantly to feel secure, because their security comes from within. They know that distance doesn't diminish connection. that you can be apart and still be close, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is give someone space to be fully themselves without your presence shaping them. This terrifies most people. Most people think love means constant contact, constant updates, constant reassurance. But awakened souls understand that real love gives room. Lots of room. Room to breathe. Room to grow. Room to sometimes be a completely different person than you were yesterday and know you'll still be loved. Third, conflict is different, not absent. Awakened people still disagree, still have bad days, still get triggered. But here's what changes. They don't fight to win. They don't keep score. They don't bring up things from 3 years ago. When there's conflict, they're both curious about it. Not defensive, curious. Like, I'm feeling activated right now. I wonder what's really going on. Is this about you? Or is this about something from my past that you just accidentally poked? And they can say things like, I need some time to process this. I'll come back when I'm calmer. And the other person doesn't panic, doesn't chase, doesn't interpret that as abandonment. Because they trust that when their partner says they need space, they mean space, not punishment. They trust that the other person will come back. Because awakened people don't run. They might walk away to get clear, but they come back. They always come back to the conversation, to the resolution, to the relationship. Fourth, there's no fixing. This might be the hardest one for people to understand. When one person is struggling, the other doesn't try to fix them, doesn't offer unsolicited advice, doesn't try to rescue them from their pain. They just hold space. They listen. They say things like, that sounds really hard. I'm here if you need me. But they don't take on their partner's emotions as their responsibility because they understand something crucial. Every person's pain is their own to process. You cannot heal someone else's wounds. You can witness them. You can support them, but you cannot do their inner work for them. And awakened people don't want you to. They don't want to be saved. They want to be seen. There's a huge difference. And fifth, perhaps most importantly, there is celebration, not jealousy. When one person succeeds, grows, evolves, the other celebrates it, genuinely, without feeling threatened, because their own sense of self is not tied to being needed. If she gets a promotion and has to travel more for work, he doesn't pout or guilt trip her. He celebrates. He's proud. He knows her success doesn't diminish him. If he decides to go back to school at 45 to study something he's always been passionate about, she doesn't worry about what that means for their relationship. She encourages it. She knows that him becoming more himself only makes their connection richer. This is what it looks like when two people are not completing each other, but witnessing each other. They're not afraid of growth. They don't need each other to stay small, to feel safe. They actively want each other to expand, to explore, to become more of who they truly are. Because they know that the relationship isn't threatened by evolution. It's enhanced by it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds lonely. This sounds like two people just living parallel lives. Where's the intimacy? Where's the passion? Where's the deep connection? And here's what I need you to understand. This is deeper intimacy than most people ever experience. Because it's not based on need. It's not based on fear. It's not based on the desperate grasping of two incomplete people trying to make a whole. It's based on choice, on presence, on two complete people deciding every single day, I choose you. Not because I need you to survive, but because my life is richer with you in it. And that, my friend, is a foundation that cannot be shaken. Because it's not built on dependency. It's built on freedom. Most relationships fail because one or both people are still trying to get from the other person what they should be giving themselves. Validation, worth, purpose, identity. And when the other person can't provide that, which they never can, the relationship crumbles. But when two awakened souls meet, they're not asking the other person to provide anything they don't already have. They're both already full. And from that fullness, they create something neither of them could create alone. Not a relationship based on need, but a relationship based on overflow. Like two rivers that are each beautiful on their own. But when they meet, they create something even more magnificent. Not because either river was incomplete, but because together, they're capable of more. This is not the fairy tale you were promised. It's not about completion or merger or becoming one. It's not about finding someone who fixes you or fills the holes in your soul. When two awakened souls meet, they don't lose themselves in each other. They find themselves more in each other's presence. They don't need each other to be whole. They choose each other from wholeness. They don't consume each other. They witness each other. They hold space for each other's full humanity, the light and the shadow, the strength and the fragility, without trying to change a single thing. This is the connection that everyone seeks, but most never find. Not because it's rare, but because it requires something most people are unwilling to do. Become whole alone first. You cannot meet someone soul to soul until you have actually met your own soul. You cannot be seen completely until you have learned to see yourself without flinching. You cannot experience this kind of connection while you're still wearing masks, still performing, still hiding from your own truth. So let me leave you with this truth, and I want you to carry it with you as you continue your journey. I do not need to be completed. I need to be witnessed. You're not waiting for someone to make you whole. You're already whole. What you're waiting for is someone who can see that wholeness without trying to change it, fix it, or consume it. And until that person arrives, if they ever do, you're not alone. You're complete. And that completeness is not loneliness. It is sovereignty. It is the foundation upon which all real connection is built. It is the only place from which you can truly love another person, not from lack, not from need, but from the overflow of a soul that has learned to love itself first. If this reached you, if it named something you felt but couldn't articulate, if it gave you permission to stop performing and start being real, then I ask you to do one thing. Leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever met someone like this? Someone who saw you completely and didn't flinch? Or are you still waiting? Not for me, but for the person who will read your words tomorrow and realize they're not the only ones searching for this kind of connection. And if you want to continue exploring what it means to live awakened, to think deeply, to refuse the shallow scripts the world offers, then subscribe. Stay. Walk this path with me. Not because you need me to guide you, but because sometimes the journey is richer when we walk it together.